You're listening to Puck and Roll.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 22 of Puck and Roll. My name is Patrick Lortie, filling in for everyone. I'm doing this solo today. It's not going to be a 3-hour episode, don't worry. And of course, the main topic, well, you know what, let's talk about something else than hockey just for 30 seconds. Probably noticed the intro music, of course, of the NWO. I just wanted to give a little shout out to Scott Hall, who passed away, unfortunately, due to complications from surgery. And man, this guy was one of my favorites when I was a kid. Razor Ramon, chico. He was just something, and then when the evolution turning into Scott Hall, creating the NW and WCW. Those were the days, right? But speaking of days, today, recording time, 10 a.m. on a Wednesday. So you're probably listening to this probably in the afternoon, I guess, hopefully. And we're waiting. We are playing the waiting game, us Montreal Canadiens fan. Ben Sherratt was a healthy scratch yesterday against the Arizona Coyotes, which is not exactly a practice that is, smiled upon by the National Hockey League. I mean, you see this very often in baseball, especially. Baseball, they would pull the guy out in the middle of the game when he's traded. It's absolutely unreal. But in hockey, well, you know what? We're calling this asset protection. We just don't want Ben Sherratt to be injured. And you know what? Say what you want. I've been reading a lot of comments on social media. And, for those of you who are following me on Twitter, it's a little mind-boggling how people still want to keep Ben Sherratt. Not saying that he's not a bad player, by all means. I mean, he's a good defenseman. He's a great leader, and he. It's just the way things are right now. His value is at the highest. He will, no doubt, fetch a first-round pick or a first-round prospect. And the reason behind it as well is, no, Ben Sherratt he's not Cale Makar, he's not Quinn Hughes, but there's a lot of experience and pedigree on his resume, and the reason also that he's going to be fetching that first-round pick is that John Klingberg is off the market because of Miro Heiskanen's injury in Dallas. And on Arizona's end, Jacob Chikrin is also injured. So that's another big name off the market. So, and now that Josh Manson was traded from the Anaheim Ducks to the Colorado Avalanche, that's another big move where, the least people available, the more the value gets up. So it's only a matter of time as to when Ben Sherratt will get traded. Chances are he might already be traded by the time you guys listen to this podcast. And now the news as to where he's going to land, again, it's just speculation at this point. I mean, there's no clear favorite as to who is as to who will land Ben Sherratt. I mean, there has been rumors, of course. I mean, especially if you're parading around Twitter for that matter. There's someone that started a false news. There was a blockbuster deal with the St. Louis Blues. That's absolutely false. The Blues are in on Ben Sherratt. They're making their due diligence. They have sent scouts, but they did not make an official offer as far as I know. The Pittsburgh Penguins have also emerged as someone who would like to recruit Sherratt. The Florida Panthers, of course, the New York Rangers that we've been talking about forever. So, it could go in so many different ways. We could either actually get another first-round pick, or what I think is probably going to happen is that we might actually end up settling on a second or third-round pick, but a high prospect as well, which I believe is what Ken Hughes is trying to do altogether. I mean, there's a lot of good prospects out there that can be available. No, Alexis Lafrenière will not be one of them. I know a lot of people got, pretty excited about the rumors that swirled around the last month about him being available. I personally even wrote about it on awinninghabit.com, but that's not happening. If the Rangers are to uh, obtain Sherratt, and they have been waiting until the last minute because they're trying to figure things out on their end. I mean, they have a very young defensive core, notably with Keandre Miller, Braden Schneider, Adam Fox, of course, is only 24 years old, Ryan Lindgren as well, but they have a very, very solid back end. However, adding Ben Sherratt to protect Igor Shesterkin even more, who, by the way, has my vote for the Hart Trophy because his season is absolutely ridiculous. So then it's gonna turn into who can we get from the Rangers. I mean, they do have a first round pick available, but it's almost no secret that Kent Hughes has been aiming for Vitaly Kravtsov, who is currently in the KHL, playing for Tractor Chelyabinsk. No, Christ, Chelyabinsk. Excuse me. 6 goals, 7 assists, 13 points in 19 games for the Russian, which doesn't seem like all that amazing. However, this is someone with an insane amount of talent and has bounced around so many different levels of hockey in the last few years. Um, like Russia has a lot of different levels. They have the KHL, they have the VHL, they have the MHL, not to mention the international play that Kravtsov did participate in. He did something with the AHL. So, I mean, you can't, bolster your numbers that much. However, that being said, I mean, this kid is amazing. We're talking about a speedy, very tall, right where he's 6'3", about 183 pounds, but he's your typical Russian sniper for that matter. So I mean, there's a reason that the Rangers drafted him ninth overall in 2018 by Jeff Gordon of all people. He is actually the one who signed him to his entry level contract in 2019. But it remains to be seen. There's a lot of names that are out there when it comes to Ben Sherratt. Now, did you watch the game against the Coyotes? A lot of people probably like, meh, I turned it off after a period. Some people probably even ignored it altogether because, well, it's the Coyotes, right? But the Coyotes are red hot. I mean, they won, 10 of their last 17 games, I believe, something like that. Or even less. I don't remember. They're just really, really, really good right now, and they did it again. They beat the Canadiens 6-3 yesterday. But funny enough, the highlight of the night has nothing to do with the Coyotes' victory or the interesting decision Martin St. Louis took with 4 minutes left of the game and pulled Caden Primo, who was in relief for Samuel Montembeault after he let in 5 goals, and ended up, scoring an empty net. The big news from yesterday's game was none other than Cole Caufield. Man, is he good! Christ, is he good! I mean, for those who haven't seen it or living under a rock, because I doubt you have not at least heard about it before listening to this podcast, Cole Caufield scored 2 goals in 8 seconds yesterday, and just bang bang plays, and it's so much fun to watch him because he's such an exciting player and an excitable personality as well. He's always smiling, he's always laughing, he's dancing around all over the place, and the players love him. And no, it's not a record. The Canadiens' record for quickest goal in history is Pete Mahovlich with 5 seconds. So believe it or not, that's that record has not been broken, and but it's still incredible seeing someone like Caufield just step up that way and go, wham bam, thank you, ma'am. I am having fun. I don't have the balls and chains from Dominic Ducharme anymore, and that's that, And that's another debate that, believe it or not, people still talk about. It's absolutely incredible that I mean, you try to be respectful. I mean, Dominic Ducharme doesn't deserve to get his head bashed in or anything. I mean, he's still a professional. I wish him the best of luck. I mean, it's obviously going to take some time before he might even get a job in the NHL anymore. But I've said it time and time again. When you have players like Cole Caulfield, um, or even Nick Suzuki or Jonathan Drouin for that matter, you can't tie them down to a rigorous system, right? Martin Sylvie talked a lot about concept, but right now I just want to take 2 seconds to talk about this system because Dominic Ducharme has this mentality ever since he was coaching in the juniors, for that matter, where he controls every player almost as if it's a video game. It's like it almost seems like he's standing behind the bench with a PlayStation or an Xbox remote, and he's playing NHL 22 or whatever. And you can't do that. You cannot do that. I mean, unless you have a system that everyone buys in and prove to everyone that it works. Perfect example would be coaches like Jacques Martin in the past or Jacques Lemaire. They play the trap like there was no tomorrow. Made for absolutely snoozing hockey, but when you have the right players and they buy into that kind of system and they realize that there's success behind it, it works. Duchamps' case, however, it didn't work. And I'm not saying that he was necessarily proning the trap. He was just proning a system so convoluted and complicated that players would get confused and it just didn't work, right? Now, does that mean that the Stanley Cup Finals last year would have turned out different? No, because Duchamp was not the one who brought the team to the finals. It was Corey Perry and Eric Stahl, and to an extent Carey Price as well. Like the veterans stood up, got Shea Weber's back, and decided, no, 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 no. Like this is not happening. We need to be playing better. We need to be playing the way we're supposed to be playing, and pretty much ignored what Duchamp was trying to convey. And next thing you know, they're in the finals. So I mean, it's a system in which and this goes for every coach that listens to this podcast as well, or any kid who listens to this podcast. I mean, you have to let the players be free to a certain extent. You can't have someone cherry pick, up in the zone and just wait. And next thing you know, it's a constant on-man rush from on your own end. However, you need to let the more talented players express themselves in a way that they can have some success. And Cole Caufield is exactly that. You don't take a guy who is a natural scorer and who's played the same position his entire life, in the same way he has always played his entire life, and suddenly ask him to play defensively. You can't do that. If the guy's going to be your best scorer, then let him score. Don't let him, take defensive zone faceoffs and just, wait for something to happen because you're just wasting his talent in that case, right? I mean, you can if you have the likes of Nick Suzuki with you, who's an excellent two-way forward, but at least you understand there's the chances of creating a rush. That being said, again, it's just a matter of letting the players be themselves in a way that is not only encouraging for the player itself, but it also shows trust to the team. And this is exactly what Martin St. Louis is doing. He's trusting his players with the talent that they have. You wouldn't ask Cole Caulfield to play the way Josh Anderson plays, right? Cole Caulfield's not a power forward; he's a sniper. That's just a fact of life. You're not going to ask Paul Byron to suddenly play 25 minutes a night. He can't. Paul Byron, he's your depth forward who's going to play fourth line minutes, maybe third line minutes in a pinch, and mostly work on the penalty kill and use his wheels as an advantage. But, the same goes for Artturi Lehkonen. You can use him in any situation you want, but don't burn him by, making a play on the first line and getting power play minutes and expecting to score 50 goals because he can't do that. He is used mostly in defensive zone purposes, but at the same time can give you a little bit of spark when you're trying to go up offensively. So again, it's a matter of development, of course, because, geez, this has been an issue for years now. It's about time that the Canadians come into the 21st century and starts creating a proper player development program. But what we've been seeing, and yesterday was another testament, is that the players are buying into the new coach's concept, like he likes to call it, um, and it's a great view of the future at the same time. That meaning that the players will buy in to this kind of concept to a point where it might attract other players. It might attract free agents. It might encourage the youngsters who are coming out, guys like Caden Gooley or Matthias Norlander, or even Jesse Elanen for that matter, to perform the way they can perform. And we're seeing that also with a guy like Rem Pitlick, who's turning into another Paul Byron story with being one of the more successful waiver pickups. This kid has a career in front of him, and if Dominique Duchamp was still coaching, I doubt that Rem Pitlick will play as good as he is now. And I doubt, of course, that Cole Caufield wouldn't score as often as he is now. So you can't tie everybody down to such a rough system and just, choke them to death. So, where does that lead us? We still got a couple of games to play before the trade deadline. We got tomorrow, Thursday against the Dallas Stars, and then Saturday night against the Ottawa Senators. Monday, we're facing the Bruins, but it's a 7 p.m. game, and the trade deadline is on Monday the 21st at 3 p.m. So who's going to leave? Who's going to stay? There's so much writing on Ben Sherratt in terms of what are we going to get as a return. But again, Brett Kulak might go. I like Brett Kulak. I think he's a very serviceable defenseman, but he is going to be an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. And I wouldn't be surprised if teams come a knocking and start offering maybe like a third or fourth round pick, which, you know what, at this point might as well take it because you just want to stack up as much as possible, especially when you got guys like Caden Cooley who's knocking at the NHL door. Corey Schuneman has been very impressive, and it could easily take Kulak's spot on the left side of the defense, along with Joel Edmondson and Alexander Romanov. Now, in terms of Lehkonen, now Arturi Lehkonen has also been rumored in a lot of trades for the last couple of weeks, notably with Washington Capitals. A lot of talk about the Canadians getting Ilya Samsonov, and also even looking at Carl Hagelin in order to just even out the cap space for the Capitals. That's apparently not happening. Now, for first and foremost, Jake Allen is scheduled to come back maybe as early as Thursday against Dallas, all depending on how practice goes this morning. Practice at noon on a Wednesday, and it's Ken Hughes actually went out and said that Arturi Lehkonen is part of the culture. He's part of the solution, so to speak, with the Montreal Canadiens. And if teams want to talk, it starts with a first-round pick. So, I mean, you guys know as much as I do that Arturi Lehkonen does not deserve to be traded for a first-round pick. No offense to him. So it's not going to happen. So I truly believe that at this point, especially that Ken Hughes has come out and say unless someone is crazy enough to offer a first-round pick, he's going to get re-signed. He is a restricted free agent. Now, the question is going to be, how much do you re-sign him as? How much is Arturi Lehkonen worth? I mean, is he worth Joel Armia money, like what, $3.8 million a year or something? Or do you try to get something in between? I mean, obviously, he's making what, like $2.5 million, I believe. And if you're trying to balance maybe in the middle, it would be cool if we can get it for 2.8, 2.9, but I don't think he's going to get anything under 3 million. It's going to get anything between 3 and 3.5 on a 3-year deal, I would say. 4 years would probably be a stretch, but I think it's going to come down to about that. It's going to be 3 times 3.5, which is still a good salary. And manageable as well. Unless, of course, he falls down to the abyss gets injured all the time and ends up being a bad contract, like a little bit like Paul Byron was given. That's another story. But you know what? Given his services and the fact that he's such a coach's dream, would not be surprised if he does that. Signs for like 3.5 million or around 3 years. Four if the agent is very, very generous. But that's another thing. And on another topic, Jeff Petrie is the other name that's been floating around. I still don't believe that Petrie's going to get traded at the deadline. The news on him is very, very quiet. He has stated that he would still like to play in Montreal. I think Jeff Petrie is going to get traded in the offseason just because of his contract. $6 million plus is a lot of money to put onto a salary cap, especially with a flat cap, meaning that the salary cap is going to be remaining the same next year. So forget it. If it does happen, it's going to be in the off season, and a bad contract is going to have to come back. Too much term, too much money. Even if Jeff Petrie has, started playing a lot better ever since the firing of Dominic Ducharme, but make no mistake, his reputation is toast right now because of the way that he's been handling everything. We've said this in past episodes, and everybody knows about this as well. And for anybody who's been reading my articles on A Winning Habit, no, he's you don't start sulking around when you're not happy. It's like you're still a professional. You're paying paid oodles of money to play hockey. You don't start sulking and demand trades and start playing sarcasm with the media, and then all of a sudden when you change coaches, oh wow, I'm happy again. No, it doesn't work that way. You got to show a little bit of professionalism, and it is what it is, right? It's yeah, you can complain about your boss. I mean, everyone complains about their boss, but doing so publicly and doing so in a way that hurts your performance, it hinders your reputation, and in the end, Petrie might actually be traded for lesser value. So, but again, I'm pretty sure that the new management, Jeff Gordon and Kent Hughes, has spoken with Petrie and will come to a decision as to what the future with the Montreal Canadiens is. All right, let's do a little bit of prospect talk just for a minute or two. So, you know what? Let's play that music again.
The prospect heroes Scott and Sebastian on Puck and Roll.
I just love Back to the Future, and this is so perfect. No, Scott and Sebastian are not part of this segment. I'm doing this again by myself, but I just want to take 2 seconds and lay on my mea culpa and start eating my hat with Joshua Roy, who last week I was saying that, you know what, I mean, he's good, but I don't know how that's going to translate. But you know what, there's an article that was released yesterday on NHL.com, written by Marc Dumont. He's a special contributor for Canadiens.com, and the article is really, really amazing. It's talking about Joshua Roy and the fact that he completely changed his attitude towards the game of hockey itself. When the first overall pick, came and he was picked, he came in and he wasn't even in shape. He was kind of just relying on his talent alone and just coasting. But finally someone came up to him and said, "Hey, you're not in shape." Like when he came to Sherbrooke, they were like, the strengthening coach and said, "You know what? You're lagging everywhere, and you're a red flag," and that kind of woke him up. And then the coaching staff, really, really put a lot of emphasis on, and I quote, fostering a positive, nurturing environment. It was Roy himself who took the first step on the road to excellence. He asked his coaches to devise a development plan that would keep him on the straight and narrow. And then what happens? Well, 32 goals, 52 assists in 43 games. He's on pace for a 49 goal and 80 assist prorated season. Again, according to Marc Dumont. So, I mean, he's still pushing. He's still developing. He's still, aiming to one day make the AHL and the NHL. And he even says in the article that his dream would be to play with the youth movement of Nick Suzuki and Cole Caufield, which, if he does, develop into the player that he can be, man, the future is really, really bright, But, and again, we saw him at the game yesterday. He was presented to the crowd with other prospects from the queue. And I'm probably gonna have to eat my hat at some point because, man, like he's really, really, really good. And again, it shows maturity for one thing, but at the same time, hey man, it's a matter of understanding what a player development program is, because guys in the past who've complained that, hey, there was not much of a program. Guys like Victor Mete has spoken about it. Jesperi Kotkaniemi spoke out about it. And it probably burned a couple of seasons in their career just because of that. I mean, kudos to Roy for, waking up. But at the same time, if this was ignored and he still, kind of just coasted on his talent, then he probably might never make the National Hockey League. But since he is, well, you know what? Best of luck to him. And, we're definitely keeping a keen eye on the rest of the season for sure. Normally around this point, this is where Joshua Rosa would show up and give you on this day in history. You know what? I'm going to do it this time. Josh actually posts now on A Winning Habit as well, and I'm just going to read it straight off the website for Wednesday, March 16th. So let's cue the wonderful music. Oh yeah, very smooth. Well, I'm no Professor Rosa, but let's try this. On this day, the year of our Lord 1961, Bernard Boom Boom Geoffrion scored his 50th goal of the 60-61 season. It was only the second time that had been accomplished, the first being, of course, Maurice Richard in 1944-1945. March 16th actually has a long history of being the date of the 50th goal of someone's season was scored. Well, with it being late in the season and all, Johnny Buick did it in 1971 as a member of the Bruins. Mike Bossy did it in 1980, his third of 9 straight 50-goal seasons. And finally, Rick Cahoe of the Pittsburgh Penguins scored his 50th on March 16, 1981. Also, incredibly, the Montreal Canadiens game against the Toronto Maple Leafs in 1961 wasn't just notable for Geoffrion's 50th goal. It was also the game that Jean Béliveau registered his 57th and 58th assist on the season. That broke the record of most assists in the season set by Bert Olmsted in 1955-56. In 1966, Béliveau was part of another record breaker combined with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Dave Keon, Ralph Backstrom, and Jean Béliveau twice scored in just 65 seconds for the quickest 4 goals combined from 2 teams. The flurry did the Maple Leafs no favors as the Canadiens ultimately won 7-2. And if that wasn't enough, Béliveau recorded his 15th career hat trick in 1968 as the Canadiens beat the Penguins 6-4. All right, that's all I got for now. I think a 30-minute show is enough, right? I've blabbered enough in your ear. No? Okay. Did I do okay? Hopefully I did. Make sure to check us out at puckandroll.com. If ever you want to listen to the old episodes, we're available everywhere. We're on Spotify. We're on iHeartRadio. We are everywhere you want to find us. Now, also, don't forget to check us out on Twitter. We're on Facebook as well. If ever you want to be a part of the show, you have any comments, send us an email, puckandroll@gmail.com. Thanks, of course, to everyone on the staff, Sebastian Highscott, Cowan, Joshua Rosa, Anthony DeMarco, who aren't here, but I'm still sending some love. So, love you guys. So hopefully by the time you listen to this podcast, we finally traded Ben Sherratt, and so next week we're definitely going to be going over the trade deadline in absolute details. So once again, thank you very much for taking the time to listen to another episode of Puck and Roll. We will see you next week. Peace.